the only EU country to have faced extreme pressure in the past decade regarding incoming and irregular migration. But we have received over 1 million arrivals in the last 7 years. Let me recall the fact that in 2016, the European Union agreed with Turkey to put an end to irregular departures and cooperate on returns. Despite the joint statement of 2016, since that time, 200,000 irregular migrants still have arrived to Greece and the European Union, leading to overcrowded camps in the islands, like the case of Moria, with mounting pressure nowadays in Bulgaria and in particular Cyprus, as Silva confirmed. Let me be clear. If Turkey had implemented their part of the agreement with the EU, we would not be having this discussion today. And every boat irregularly leaving Turkey puts human lives at risk, each and every day. According to a considerable number of testimonies from asylum seekers, Turkish authorities are actively encouraging illegal departure. Greece would expect an even more active role of EU institutions in calling Turkey to abide by its commitment under the 2016 joint statement and fully implement its provisions, namely preventing departures, stopping push forwards, and accepting returns of those not eligible for international protection. Also, I need to emphasize that we're currently facing several provocations by Turkey against our sovereign rights, not least inflammatory, revisionist, and legally unfounded statements concerning the status of Aegean Islands. These threats clearly violate international law and raise real and immediate security concerns on the borders. Despite these difficulties, over the past 3 years, in cooperation with the European Commission and DG Home, we have worked towards substantially improving the situation on the ground, as you had the opportunity to see during your recent visit to Greece. Let me note that we work to provide safe and dignified reception conditions in the new camps, which are constructed now in line with EUAA reception standards. We managed the pandemic having zero, I repeat, zero loss of life in the camps in the islands, despite concerns you have raised in 2020. We have worked to accelerate asylum processing and decrease the backlog. We work to enhance integration efforts together with IOM, and we work to provide support for unaccompanied minors, terminating custody at police stations and in most cases in camps. All unaccompanied minors now live in appropriate shelters. Worth noting that when we talk about migration, we almost always fail to talk about the people living in our countries, the European citizens. Their fundamental rights have been gravely affected in many communities by mass arrivals over the years and a lack of fair distribution of the burden and solidarity by all member states. And we have a responsibility towards our local communities to ensure they are not negatively affected by mass arrivals. Dear colleagues, regarding the situation in Evros in recent months, smuggling networks have devised a new method of circumventing border controls and manipulating the European asylum and justice system. Smugglers abandon groups of migrants on islets created by the seasonal low flow of the Evros River. Then they notify specific NGOs which specialize in border crossing facilitation, and these NGOs in turn notify Greek authorities and at the same time file with the European Court of Human Rights with a letter reacting by indicating interim measures, which of course do not prejudice the merit of any case. Let me be clear. First, we act in all cases of distress with search and rescue operation within the Greek territory. We have acted on all reported cases in Evros, sending border units to rescue the migrants involved. Many times, these migrants have already moved forward, backwards, or to another islet. When found, they are rescued and transferred to a reception and asylum center where they can apply for asylum. Since last month, in 5 such cases, we rescued in these islets 196 persons, and please note that they were all in good health. No one needed hospitalization, which of course will have been provided if needed. I repeat, the Greek authorities have acted in all cases, and therefore, despite the information provided by third parties to LIBE, Greece has complied with these interim measures. Second, I need to note that this is one of the most militarized areas in Europe, if not the most militarized external border of the European Union. People do not just drop on islets on the Evros River. Turkey is always looking for ways to steer trouble. The migrants themselves have testified with their filings at the European Court of Human Rights that Turkish forces have put them there. Incidents involving migrants on a sensitive border line may lead to escalation, and we all know that the risk of an accident cannot be excluded. We do, however, and I repeat, act on all islets defined as Greek in the 1926 protocol with Turkey. The 1923 Lausanne Treaty defined the midline of the river as the natural border between Greece and Turkey. But the river is constantly changing its formation of islets. Some lie in the Greek side, some in the Turkish side, some in both sides. They're in the middle, so they're both at the same time, they have a Greek and a Turkish area. Technical discussions with Turkey continue on these issues. In addition to what is happening in the land border of Evros, let me recall that at sea the Hellenic Coast Guard engaged almost daily in search and rescue operation involving sailing boats that leave Turkish coast unchecked and unconstrained by the competent authorities trying to cross into Europe, either to Greece or to Italy. Unseaworthy vessels embark on perilous journeys. This year, we have already rescued 5,000 migrants at the sea and the land borders. Moreover, I want to make crystal clear that we work with civil society in Greece and their work is highly valued. 3 final points. Instrumentalization. It is a challenge for all member states of the European Union. It is a challenge not unique to Greece. Similar challenge is faced by Spain, it is faced by Poland, Lithuania and Latvia. It's an extremely complicated challenge, aiming to abuse the European high standards of human rights and the rule of law. Dealing with it requires unity among us and requires the active engagements of all EU institutions. The protection of borders is clearly distinct from the concept of border management, and it is a sovereign right of states to protect their borders subject to their obligations under international law. International law does not provide for a right of entry or a so-called right to access the territory. While protecting our borders, we faced accusation of pushbacks. This is a broad term, rather political and not legally defined, as a European Parliament 2021 publicly available briefing on the topic said. Indeed, the term pushback is often used by NGOs and the press to denote many different practices. One practice, for example, is the practice of maritime interdiction in the territorial sea, the legality of which is recognized in Article 6 of Regulation 656 of 2014, or the right of countries to erect fences to prevent irregular entry to territory. Another practice would be the summary expulsion of non-nationals from the territory of the state, which is something Greece does not practice. Even so, I have to note that the European Court of Human Rights has ruled that summary collective expulsions are under certain circumstances in line with the Convention, as decided in the case against Spain and very recently in the case against North Macedonia. Let me be clear. Greece protects the EU external borders and intercepts illegal attempts to enter EU territory, but it does so in fully respect of fundamental rights and above all the right to life, and we enhance our regulatory framework through more involvement of independent monitoring mechanisms to make sure that any allegation is appropriately investigated. Our border protection policy is in no way preventing access to the asylum procedure, and Greece is steadily in the top 5 member states in terms of annual asylum application in the EU and has granted international protection status to more than 80,000 since 2019, excluding 45,000 that received temporary protection from Ukraine. Finally, I need to underline that Greece is routinely criticized at the same time for preventing entry through border protection and for secondary migratory flows. As migration and asylum remains a pan-European challenge, we need to agree on common strategies based on the principle of responsibility and solidarity for all, including the free movement of recognized refugees within the European Union, as we successfully did for displaced persons from Ukraine. We cannot allow for Europe to be seen as silently tolerating double standards in international protection. Different standards for recognized refugees from Ukraine having the right to move around member states. Different standards for people entering from other countries being recognized by our asylum laws and our common European values as refugees. And then when they move from one country to the other, we have the concept of secondary flows being argued against the first reception countries. Ilva mentioned that there was a lot of progress made in the last Council meeting. This is true. It was done because the Mediterranean countries, despite the pressure we receive, we helped to move the agenda forward. But Europe needs to show considerable more solidarity to the frontline member states. Thank you, Chair.
We thank you, Minister.